This is an image of our bioactive tank that I showed you in the last video. It's not so much the tank we're looking at actually, because I was watching the latest update on Kennan's Indian python, which I was very interested to hear about because I was intrigued when she first arrived. And obviously she's still really, really defensive and very, very frightened. The video was a little uncomfortable to watch, as I think everybody knows, and I think Kennan knows. So all I thought I'd do, because he did say, you know, show us your snakes and what you do with them and that sort of thing. So I thought that's what I'd do. I thought I might get Saoirse out, who was a very defensive snake. Not been a striker with us. She was previously apparently, but the rescue centre seemed to already have got that out of her by the time we got her. So we got the easier deal, I'll be honest. She's not been as bad as the Indian python Kennan's got. But she doesn't necessarily want to come out. She doesn't particularly want to be handled. We do it to make sure that she's comfortable and to make sure she's versatile enough to not be frightened and to be all right around us. So she's currently hiding, as you can see. I'm going to try and stay out of shot as best as possible because I don't like being on camera. I will have to be a little bit this evening. So that's where she's put herself at the moment. There are lots of things, as you can see in the vid, that she can get herself around, and she does sometimes wrap herself around them, and we've got to figure out how to get her out. A little bit like the Indian python round the legs of the sink. It can be a little bit tricky. I do it a slightly different way. I'll try and demonstrate what I do. This may be a little remedial to a lot of people. A lot of you have already got snakes. You do what you do. Many people are much better at it than me. But we'll see what happens. She may be really good this evening, or she may fight me every step of the way. We'll have a little look. But this is what we do with Saoirse. Hey, sweetie, what are we doing? Are we coming out? Are we up for coming this evening? Looks like she's actually going to make life not too difficult for me. Which doesn't really help me. I was kind of hoping she was going to be a bit of a nuisance so I could show you how we persuade her to come out. But what we try and do is make things a choice for her. Hands underneath, she's, like I say, she's in a bent back head position, but we know what she's like. This isn't a defensive strike position at all. It kind of looks a bit like one, but she's not that kind of girl. And yes, she's a boa. She's a bit of the Labrador of the snake world. So I always try not to pull her too hard. I am pulling her a little bit just to eke her out from underneath that log. She's not got the size of the Indian python, that's clear, I realise that. So she's nothing like as bad. And she's actually just come out really nicely, which, thanks for that, Saoirse. That's kind of not what we wanted to demonstrate this evening. But sometimes she really is on a running mission. She wants to get away. She's not one who's desperate to come out. She actually prefers being in her tank to being out, which is kind of nice because obviously that's where she spends most of her time. That's why we try and make it as nice for her as we can. But the reason we did so much handling to begin with was not to be frightened of us, not to be frightened of coming out, and to be comfortable going into new environments if necessary, be it for education eventually, or just if she needs to go to the vet. We've only had her since August last year, so she's not actually been to the vet yet. She's a very healthy snake. I haven't seen fit to take her in, partly because she was much more stressed every time she came out to begin with. So I didn't want to stress her out further by taking her into a very strange environment. She does, she's not even wrapping terribly hard around my hand there. I know I'm letting her go around the back of my neck here. I'm not advocating large constrictors around your neck. I sort of try and keep around my shoulders more than anything. This is obviously a million miles away from what the Indian python's going to be doing for the foreseeable future. But this snake here, I wish I had some videos to show you, was much more difficult to handle to begin with. And now, you can actually, for one thing you can see, she's gripping around me a little bit, but she's not terrifically tense. When we first got her, she would literally feel rock solid to the touch because she was just so tense, and then she'd hiss and be very, very worked up. She was somewhere between 1 and 2 years in rescue. Not really being handled because you don't get a lot of time in rescue, you can't get them out all the time, it just doesn't happen.
We are a little bit spoilt because there's service as well though, because what we quite often find is that she'll climb on one of us, and if the other one stands fairly close, she thinks she's getting away somewhere, but actually she's just passing from one person to the next, and then you literally just swap around. So it's a bit like when they run through your hands, you sort of put one hand underneath the other and keep them moving. Well, we sort of get them to go from one person to another, and she keeps moving. And eventually she settles on one of us, and then after she's settled, we'll let her just chill out, do her thing, and then we'll put her back in a viv after a positive experience.
Yeah, we generally put her back in after she's settled down. That's the idea. It's like that's the reward for being good and settled, for what we call good, obviously for her, just to be calm. But she is so much calmer than she used to be. To be honest, I'm not sure the last time she was really difficult. She was so it's a bad example in a way. Like I say, I was kind of hoping she was going to try and run away from me, or just try and get away, because she does. She'll put her head around things, she'll try and hook her tail around that big log in there, which she can very efficiently do. What I do when she does that is a little bit like Helen was doing, I sort of prod her from behind, but I must admit I don't do it as aggressively. But this has taken some work, but not that much work. Like I say, we've not had her a massively long time. Now she's gripping a little bit, but only because she wants to move around me. So there she goes, she's going to feel her way around and grip a little bit. If I put my arms back a bit, then she doesn't feel the need to grip so hard, because it's like, and that's the thing, when you pull on them, I do make a point of I try not to pull her backwards too much. I don't get her near the tail. That said, she's not a snake who's going to strike at me, I know that, but I suppose I'm very much in that I don't want to push them, I want to at least give them some feeling of a choice. Even if it's a choice I'm driving, I am not forcing, but giving them only the one option, I suppose, is the idea. But to me, it still means it's giving them a choice. So this is Sorsha being really, really good, because bless her, she is actually. And I'll show you her going back in a minute, because she does love to go back in. So that's one thing she's very happy to do.
Interestingly, because we don't often get great weather in the UK. I know a lot of you guys will be over in America or Florida area, that sort of thing. We got a really nice day last week, and possibly for the first time in Sorsha's life, she got to be outside in the sunshine. It was lovely and warm, and a pair of us were really surprised, but surprised, but kind of not surprised in the same way, to find out she didn't actually want to go back in a viv immediately.
But that was the first time she'd been offered a viv, because we never sort of put her back in, we just put her head near the open viv, and she goes, there's home, off I go. Sometimes at high speed. But yeah, that was the first time she actually just sat wrapped around Kev's arm, quite comfortable, like, no, I don't, no, I'm not
I quite like it here, take me back outside, please.
So we did, the wonders of infrared radiation, which means, we have got ceramic heaters in there, there is UV, but there isn't really the infrared at this point. Well, not the infrared A, because the ceramics, as many people will know, give off infrared C, which is a longer wavelength, so less penetrating than the infrared A and B, which you get from the sunlight and from halogen lights, to be honest. So that's something I'm thinking, maybe I need to upgrade that faster than I thought. But that's another matter. This we were looking at a handling situation. Just as a brief mention, there was some mention of grabbing her around the head, and there was some debate on the comments to do with, people saying, well, sometimes you have to, and because other people say, no, I would never grab a snake around the back of the head. We do make a point of touching her around the head and the neck a little bit, but trying to make her comfortable with it. I have never at this point grabbed her around there. I haven't had to. I realise if you have to save yourself, you may have to. I try not to put myself in a position where I would ever have to. Yes, if ever she needs a veterinary investigation, that may happen, but it's only something I would do for a medical reason, if at all possible. Like I say, I try not to put myself in a position where I'm going to be in massive danger unless I pin something's head. That's not a position I want to be in, it's not a position I want the animal to be in, which is, I am not saying that's a position Kenan wishes to be in either. I totally understand that he doesn't. And obviously he was potentially in some significant danger with a large Indian python who's very, very frightened. Whereas this young lady here, it's like I say, she's like the Labrador of the snake world, really.
She is now.
But this is a much calmer creature. We were careful when we first got her. She's our first big snake. And so we did make sure we were together every time we handled it. These days one of us will get her out on her own because she's small enough that you can handle that, and we know what she's like. But there won't be any reticulated pythons in our future at this point because we haven't got space for one thing, but we would have to make sure that both of us were on hand to handle. So like I say, I'm rambling on a little bit now. I know that a lot of this is things people already know. I just thought I would give a little bit of a demonstration as to what we do. We're
also used to not coming in over and above an animal, so we kind of try not to look too threatening. I think there is a lot of body language which does translate right across the animal kingdom for not being threatening and not being anything to worry about, and you kind of get used to those kind of movements and that kind of attitude towards something that is wary of you.
But there is I appreciate there is a danger aspect, people have to protect themselves. But like I say, to me, the angle is not to put yourself in a position where you feel you have to be defensive, because that's what the snake's being, isn't it?
She's definitely wanting to go
over.
She's like,
I'll go back in there. So the snake, the snake's eyes, we know, are not aggressive, they are defensive. And we want to give them not the opportunity where they have to think like that. So that's one thing I'll mention as well, is that again, if you go around the back end, if I'm to grab her tail or something, she's going to be much more likely to shoot forwards. Whereas if I'm in the middle or here-ish, she feels more comfortable. Again, if I could get her here though, she goes back. So you can.
But again, you can use that to your advantage as well, because when you're trying to get them out of the viv, as long as we always announce our presence. I mean, a lot of people do it with a hook. We started off doing it with a hook, but just to sort of introduce yourself and touch sort of mid-snake and just say, yep, this is me, this is not a feeding opportunity for you, to let her know that this is you're just about to be handled. If you do touch towards the rear of the snake, obviously you'll then propel it forward in theory, which, when depending on which way you're getting out of the tank, can sometimes quite help you to get to go the direction that you wanted to go, but with her feeling she's actually making that choice rather than being forced or dragged.
I mean, one thing we did with touching her to begin with, she doesn't flinch now. She did flinch every time you touched her to begin with. So we made a point of making sure she saw us coming, making sure she knew this wasn't a terrible thing. Sometimes I'd just sit with the tank open, sit with her, talk to her. I know they haven't got external ears. They probably couldn't hear anything I was saying.
No,
but the fact that I was there,
more than
she can taste that I was there and all that sort of thing. So she has come on a long way, but this is not the snake we took home in many ways.
And again, approaching the head, sort of, habitually, we sort of tend to put a hand out almost just slightly below, let her head sort of come to us. So your head usually sort of passes over the top of my palm, sort of thing. I don't think I'd ever come in from the top and try and actually get hold of the head. That would be, Yeah,
I mean, obviously, like I say, even if you're doing that to protect yourself, it's something. It's got to be a lot more risky. But, most people, a lot of people will know this. I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to say that I am, an expert in any way. Where's this snake going?
I don't know. Perhaps somewhere I ought not to film,
let's not film there. Thank you very much. But what we'll do is she is now slipping downward, but she does want to go back into her tank. We'll let her grip round that leg, and we'll figure out where her head is.
Yeah, your boa belt has slipped.
Yeah, my boa belt has slipped, hasn't it? We do boa yoga sometimes.
Yes.
Let's have a little bit of... Where's she going? There we go. Not going through there, though, honey.
At least you've got your fashionable leg warmers on,
Oh, of course. One has to have one's fashionable leg warmers. So we'll go... There's your tank. Is that where you want to go? Yeah, it is. Wrong way. That way. There we go. And she goes, oh, thank God. The stupid ape has allowed me to go back into my house. So, I don't know, hopefully this hasn't bored anybody to death too much. I'm rambling on, we're just having a bit of a chat about it, really. I do apologise to anybody who has made it this far. But there she is, she's going to sort herself out, put herself back where she wants to be. She had a little time out. We'll put a log back in for her. So, like I say, we are quite fortunate with her. I'm not saying Kennan's Indian python will ever be that tame. Maybe it will, I don't know. Like I say, this young lady was a lot more defensive than she is now.
Yeah, definitely.
And much worse before we met her. She used to strike the glass whenever anybody walked past, apparently, because she hadn't been handled, so everything was just, oh, you must have food, or a defensive strike. I'm not sure, I didn't see her doing it. But they can come round, hopefully that one will. like I put in one of the comments, I would happily go and help handle that snake if I was anywhere near, but I'm, several thousand miles away.
Anyone wants to pay for flights, we're quite happy.
We're gone.
Right.
Where are you going, Sorge? But yeah, we'll let you all go, and thank you for watching.
Cheers.